You're about to transform your jailbroken or hen-enabled PlayStation 3 into the ultimate media center. I'll show you everything that you have to do one step at a time to play backups of your favorite movies and music, and even live stream TV and music on your system. Fire up your PlayStation 3 and your computer because you're about to level up your setup. There's only one download you need for this whole project, and it's available on my website. I have it linked for you in the video description. To get the file download, scroll down on the web page until you see the large green download button shown here. Click on the download button to download the single zip file containing all the files you need. Okay, now that you've got the file downloaded, let's get it unpacked and take a look at what's inside. Open up File Explorer and then select your Downloads folder. You'll see a single all-in-one zip file here. Right-click on the file and select Extract All. You can extract the contents of this file and folder to its default location. Once you've extracted it, you don't need the zip file anymore. Right-click on it and delete it to send it to the recycle bin. And remember, anything you delete and send to the recycle bin is still archived there, just in case you need it later. Okay, let's take a look at what's inside the folder. Navigate up to the folder and then double-click into it. So you'll find 3 files in here. The first one is a .pkg file. That's going to be the Movian software to install on the PS3. There's also an installer for FileZilla so that we can take a look at transferring files over FTP in a moment. And GUI format. This is used to format USB drives in FAT32 format that are larger than 32 gigs. Let's start by installing FileZilla. Double-click on the installer file, then at the UAC prompt, click on Yes to continue. For the most part, the installer is just the routine process of clicking on I accept in the bottom right corner, but there is one part of this installation process that you want to slow your roll and just take a look at. It's going to ask you whether or not you want to install additional ad-aware software. It's not mandatory, and you can choose to either accept or decline the install. In this case, I'm going to click on Decline and then Continue in the bottom right corner. Now from here, it's just the routine installation process of any other piece of Windows software. You can choose to put in shortcuts, decide where you want to install. You can just keep on clicking Install at the bottom here until the installation process is finished. There's no reason to run FileZilla yet, however. Uncheck that box and then click on Finish. Once you've completed the installation process, you don't need this installer file any longer. Right-click on it and delete it to send it to the recycle bin. Next up, let's get a USB drive formatted in FAT32 format so that your PlayStation 3 can use it. To get started, I'm going to take this File Explorer window and then drag and drop it over to the left side of the screen and snap it into place. Insert a USB-A drive into your computer. Once the USB drive is recognized in Windows and the File Explorer window appears, I'll take this window and drag and drop it to the right side of the screen and snap it into place. It's super important that you identify the drive letter associated with your USB drive by Windows. In this case, it's drive letter F named Subscribe, so you don't forget to subscribe to the channel while you're here. Pay close attention to this because if you format the wrong drive in the next step, you could format something like your Windows drive, and well, that would kind of suck. Okay, once you've got it figured out, you can close out this File Explorer window. Go back over to the Downloads folder, locate GUI format, and double-click on it to launch the application. Then, when the UAC prompt appears, navigate down to Yes and click on it. Before you attempt to format any drives with GUI format, you need to close out any open instances of File Explorer. If you don't, it will interfere with the ability of the software to format your drive. Okay, cool. Now that the File Explorer windows are closed, take a look in the top left corner of the GUI format interface. Underneath the word drive, make sure the drive letter matches the drive letter of the USB drive that you just verified previously. If it doesn't, you need to click here and select the proper USB drive before proceeding. Once you've verified the drive letter, come down to Start near the bottom right corner and click on it. At the confirmation prompt that appears in the middle of the screen, click OK to continue. It should only take a moment for your drive to be formatted and you'll be all set. Once the process is complete, you're done with GUI format. Come down to Close near the bottom corner of the window and click on it to close out the software. You'll need to reopen the File Explorer window for your USB drive now that it's formatted. To do this, go down to File Explorer, right-click, and select this PC. You'll be presented with the storage locations for your computer, including the USB drive that you newly formatted. Locate the icon for it and double-click on it. Just like you did before, grab the File Explorer window for the USB drive and drag it over to the right side of the screen and drop it into place. Let's also reopen the Downloads folder. Right-click on File Explorer and select Downloads. In Downloads, you'll see the all-in-one folder you previously extracted. double-click into that folder. I'm going to drag and drop this window over to the left side of the screen and snap it into place. Grab the .pkg file for Movian and drag and drop it onto the root of your USB storage. Okay, so you're done with the AIO file. I'd recommend that if you don't already have a copy of GUI format somewhere, that you archive it somewhere else on your computer. Otherwise, you're done with the AIO folder. You can right-click on the folder and delete it to send it to the recycle bin. Movian's only as good as the content that you feed it. So let's take a look at some of the content types that you can copy over to your USB drive and bring along for the journey. In this case, I have some content pre-staged in a folder called Demo, and I have them in subfolders called Movies and Music. Inside the Movies folder, I've got 3 different files. You can actually use things like .mov, .mkv, and even these .mp4 files. So I have 2 of them that are in H.264 format and 1 that's in H.265. We'll take a look at why that is in just a moment. One of the really cool things about Movian is it's not just a movie player, it's a music player. Take a look inside the music folder. I've actually got 2 albums, and the music files are sorted into folders here representing each album. So I'm going to go into the Daft Punk folder here. These .mp3 files came with the vinyl copy of my Random Access Memories album. So these are already in MP3 format and already have the artwork assigned to them. But if you take a look at Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here, what's really cool is these are in lossless format and .flac format. If you take a look at the files, they don't have the artwork. I have both of these albums represented here for that reason. 1, you can play multiple formats including lossless, and 2, if you don't have the album artwork and you still need it, we'll take a look at how to get it in just a moment. Okay, so there's 2 ways to move content over to the PS3, and the first one is you can just dump it right on the USB drive and bring it along for the ride. So for the first example here, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll just grab the copies of these 2 folders, Music and Movies, and drag and drop them directly onto the root of the USB storage drive. The benefit of doing things this way is that it only took about 4.5 minutes to transfer all 3 movie files and all the music files over to USB storage. The problem with it is that the PS3 utilizes USB 2 technology on the front of it, so loading it in from the USB drive is going to be substantially slower than if you store the files on the native drive, especially if you've upgraded to an SSD, inside the PlayStation 3. We'll take a look at the benefits and problems with FTP in just a moment. Okay, for now you're done with your computer. You can close out any open instances of File Explorer by clicking on the red X in the top right corner of each of the File Explorer windows. Go ahead and remove the USB drive from your computer and insert it into the rightmost USB port on your PlayStation 3. Power on your PlayStation 3, and if your system uses PS3 HEN, go ahead and activate it now. From the cross-media bar on your PlayStation 3, press over to the right with the D-pad several times until you get to the Games tab. Scroll down from the Game tab all the way to the bottom to the Package Manager and select it with the X button. Inside Package Manager, scroll down 1 time to install package files and select it with X. Finally, scroll down 2 times to the listing that says Standard, that's your USB drive, and select it with X. You'll see the package file for Movian here. Press the X button to install the package file. It only takes a moment in real time as it's a small package file. Once the installation process is complete, press the circle button on the controller for back to go back to the Game tab on the cross-media bar. With most common package files for the PlayStation 3, once you install the package file, you'll see the application in the Game tab. However, in this case, nothing shows up on the Game tab. That's because you need to power off your PlayStation 3 first and then power it back on for the changes to take effect. So go over to Turn Off System, select it with the X button, and at the confirmation prompt, select Yes to turn off your system, then turn it right back on. Once you get back to the cross-media bar, you'll see a new tab listed here, and it's called TV Video Services. Scroll over to it with the D-pad, and you'll see Movian installed here. Press the X button to launch Movian for the first time. You'll be taken to the main menu of Movian, and you'll see these options from the main menu. Local network is kind of the elephant in the room because it might or might not work for you depending upon your own home network setup. For example, I went to local network here from the main menu and pressed the X button, and here's what I saw. Absolutely nothing. It made no difference whether I tried a wired or wireless connection. I got the same message every time when I pressed the square button. No media found. This PS3 is on the same network as the computer you just saw, and network attached storage, so it should certainly show something. It may have something to do with the modem provided by the cable company, or the wireless internet access. Either way, there's nothing here on my side, and your mileage may vary depending upon how your own network is set up. So I'm just going to press the circle button here to go back to the main menu of Movian. Let's look at some of the settings you can adjust to add value to your Movian experience. I'm going to slide over to settings with the D-pad and select it with the X button. There's a pretty high possibility you're watching this video on a mobile device, and some of this text may be a little bit small. Fortunately, it's a simple matter to change the font and icon size inside the settings menu. Scroll down to the listing for look and feel using the D-pad and select it with the X button. The first submenu here is called Fonts. If you come down to the listing that says Font and Icon Size, you can make adjustments to this. Press to the right on the D-pad to increase the size or to the left to decrease it. See? Better. Now that things look a bit larger on the small screen, I'll press the circle button to go back to the settings main menu. Okay, let's check to make sure you have the most recent version of Movian. Scroll up to the listing for General and select General with the X button. The first listing inside General is for the software update. Make sure that you have Upgrade to Releases From set to M7, it's the most recent version of Movian, and then scroll down and make sure that Notify About Updates is set to On. Finally, scroll down to the listing for Check for Updates Now and press the X button to select it. In this case, the newest version of Movian is already installed on the system from May of 2024, but if there's a more up-to-date version, you'll see it here. For now, I'll just press the circle button to go back one level to the General menu, and then press the circle button again to go back to the main interface for Movian. Remember, we copied the movies and music over to the USB drive. It's represented here in the list of choices. So I'm going to scroll all the way over to the right to USB drive 0, and then select it with the X button. You'll see the folders that you copied over to the drive, in this case a folder called Movies and a folder called Music. You don't have to worry about the one that says System Volume. When you go into Movies, what's really awesome is, with your PS3 connected to the internet, all of the metadata and artwork will be scraped for your movies. This is cool. Let's test a couple of these movies to see what impact the file format and their encoding makes in terms of their playback performance. Tales from the Crypt Presents Demon Knight is a 1080p movie, and it's in .mp4 format with H.264 encoding. It's an older form of encoding that's easily decoded by systems like the PlayStation 3 for playback. As you can see here, the PS3 is easily capable of keeping up with both the frame rate and the bit rate of this video file. Take a look at what happens when I load Superbad. While it's also a .mp4 file and it's in 1080p resolution, it's encoded in H.265 format. It's a newer type of encoding and compression that keeps file sizes smaller but also requires more hardware to decompress and decode on the fly. And while the audio playback for this video file works correctly, it does not keep up with the frame rate of the video. The video itself chugs along not at frames per second, but seconds per frame. I just wanted to make sure you saw this because if you try to put some of your content that's in H.265 format into Movian and it's your first experience, you're probably going to assume that Movian doesn't work correctly. It does, you just have to feed it the right stuff. Back at the main menu, let's take a look at playing music files. Remember, these are already pre-stored on the USB drive, so I'll come over to USB and select it with X. Then I'm going to scroll down to Music and select it with X. What's really cool here is it can play multiple types of music files. Let's try out those lossless FLAC files. I'm going to go into Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here, and it actually went ahead and verified all the metadata online for the tracks here. But if you notice, each of them have this really odd number 5 next to them. Don't worry, we're going to take a look at that, how to fix that in just a minute. I'm going to come down to one of my favorite songs from the album, Welcome to the Machine, and press X to select it. Remember how the cover art was missing in Windows? It's been automatically downloaded to these FLAC files inside Movian. Nice! Let's get rid of all those strange number 5s next to the song names. You can pull out a sidecar menu here by pressing the triangle button. It'll give you a list of choices that aren't shown from the main interface. From the list of choices that appear once you pop out the sidecar menu, press X to select metadata mode. From here, you can scroll down to the listing for manual and select manual with the X button. Press the circle button to go back and you'll see that those strange looking numbers are now gone. If you have some favorite music and movie files that you'd rather not have to load manually each time, you can actually put them directly on the home menu of Movian. Press the square button on the controller and you'll pull out a new pop-up menu in the center of the screen. Come down to the listing for Bookmark with the D-pad and select Bookmark with the X button. If you press the circle button several times to go back to the home menu of Movian, you'll see that there's a new listing added here, and in this case, it's specifically for the song called Welcome to the Machine by Pink Floyd. Very cool. This can be a big time saver for helping you get to the content you love most. If you want to move the content over to your hard drive or solid-state drive inside your PS3 directly, FTP is a great way to go. To access FTP from inside Movian, go back over to Settings and press the X button. From the main menu of Settings, use the D-pad to scroll down to Network Settings, and then select Network Settings with the X button. The first settings inside Network are all about connecting over FTP to your computer and vice versa. To do this, scroll down to the listing for Enable FTP Server and change the setting from Off to On. There's no username or password required to sign on, and you'll need to use port 2121 to create this connection. Interestingly enough, the IP address is not shown anywhere on this screen, but this is an easy fix. All you have to do is on your PS3 controller, press inward on the left thumbstick. This will pop out a new menu on the left side of the screen, and it will include some key data, including the IP address you need to sign on to, along with port 2121. Now that we've got the IP address and port number, let's head over to the PC and make it happen. FileZilla is already pre-installed on the system from earlier in this video, so I'm going to go over to Windows Start and then click on All Apps at the top right corner of this window. As the apps are listed alphabetically, I'll scroll down to the letter F, locate FileZilla, and then click on it to launch it for the first time. And wow, that is some kind of jarring bright white when we've been looking at all this dark mode stuff. Here's a keyboard shortcut you can use if you want to have a quick and dirty way to turn on dark mode for apps that don't support it natively. Press the left Alt key, the left Shift key, and the Print Screen key all at one time. In the top left corner of the screen, you'll see a new pop-up appear asking you if you want to turn on high contrast mode. Click on yes or press the Enter key, and presto, instant dark mode. An important note here, you probably won't be able to see the text on the left or right pane until you close out FileZilla and then reopen it. So I'm going to close out FileZilla here and then go right back into the Windows Start, back up to All Apps, down to F, and then select FileZilla again to relaunch it. Now you'll be able to see the labels on the folders and files. Remember that IP address and port number from your PS3 from earlier? It's time to enter it into FileZilla now. Take a look at the top left corner of the window. To connect to your PlayStation 3, enter the IP address in the host box. Remember in this case, it's 10.0.0.165. Just be aware that it will likely be different for yours. There's no username and no password. Just enter the port number 2121 in the port blank. Once you have this completed, click on Quick Connect. You'll see a pop-up message appear in the center of the screen asking you to confirm the connection between your computer and your PlayStation 3. To stop this box from popping up in the future, you can just click the checkbox next to Always Allow. Once this is done, click OK to continue. You'll see new folders appear on the right side of the screen, giving you access to your PS3 storage. To make things a little easier to read for the next step, I'm just going to grab the handle here and drag it to the right to expand out the descriptions of the folders just a bit. I'll also come over to the pane on the left side and extend the descriptions here with the drag handle, just to make things a little bit easier to navigate moving forward. Remember how the movies and music files are stored in folders under the demo folder on my computer? I'm going to come up to this address bar here and change this letter to drive D. That's where the demo folder is hosted on the computer. Be sure to pick the drive letter that matches the location for your own content and enter it here. In this example, I'll come down to the demo folder and double-click into it. Here's the movies folder and here's the music folder. We'll need to put these in the right place on your PlayStation 3, and that's going to be on the PS3 HDD. Locate it in the pane on the right and double-click into it. You won't have to create any new folders here or anything like that. You can just grab the folders that have your content, in this case the movies and music folder, and you can drag and drop them right onto the root of your internal storage for your PlayStation 3 if you like, which is what I'm going to do in this case. Okay, quick time check here while we're starting the transfer process. You see, the benefit of transferring them directly onto your internal storage of your PS3 is that it will load them much faster than the USB ports on the front. However, it's a deathly slow process of transferring files over the Ethernet port on your PlayStation 3. Okay, now that the transfer process is complete, let's take a look at how long it actually took. The answer? It took an eye-watering 53 minutes to transfer these files to the PlayStation 3 over FTP. Remember, it only took 4.5 minutes to transfer them over USB. Just remember, it's a trade-off. They may take about 10 times as long to transfer over, but they'll load much faster every time you load your content in Movian. Okay, we're done with FileZilla at this point. You can click the red X at the top right corner of the window to close out FileZilla. Oh yeah, one more thing. Don't forget to press left Alt, left Shift, and the print screen key to turn off the high contrast mode and go back to the normal viewing mode in Windows. Back at Movian on your PlayStation 3, you can close out the pop-up window on the top left corner of the screen by pressing the left thumbstick inward towards the controller. Now you can press the circle button several times to go back to the main menu of Movian. Now that the movies and music are copied over to the internal hard drive, you can remove the USB drive from your PlayStation 3. Once you remove it, it will no longer be shown as an icon on the main menu of Movian. Loading your movies and music from internal storage works the same way as it does from USB. This time, just go over to PS3 HDD and select it with the X button. Remember how we copied the movies and music folders directly onto the root of the hard drive? You can just scroll down with the highlighter using the D-pad to movies or music and press X. And just like on USB, the metadata and artwork will automatically be downloaded and added to your movies. Nice! I mentioned earlier you could use Movian to stream live TV and music to your PS3. Here's how that's done. I'm going to press the circle button here several times until we get back to the main menu of Movian. If you scroll all the way over to the left side of the main navigation menu, you'll see there's a listing there called Plugins. Navigate over to it with the D-pad and press the X button to select plugins. Then select Browse Available Plugins with the X button. You'll see a number of different categories for plugins you can add to Movian. Among them are online TV, where you can choose from several different live TV streaming apps. Video streaming, where you can select a number of different plugins to give you access to online streaming content. Music streaming, where you can listen to a variety of different genres of music from online radio. The Subtitles plugin, which lets you add custom subtitles to your movie content. A TV Video RU content category, which allows you to access a number of different channels with shows in the Russian language. And a couple of uncategorized plugins which didn't work on the PlayStation 3. They're likely there because Movian is a multi-platform front-end and media player. To add one of the plugins to Movian from the plugin browser, go to the category that you want to add a plugin from, in this case, music streaming, and select it with X. I'm going to add the plugin for Soma FM. It's an indie, internet-only radio station that's supported exclusively by donations from its listeners. With the highlight on Install, press the X button to install the plugin to Movian. Once you've installed the plugins that you want, press the circle button until you're back at the main menu of Movian. You'll now see a new icon on the main menu of Movian with any of the plugins that you installed, in this case, Soma FM. Alright, let's give it a try. I'll come down to Soma FM from the home screen and select it with the X button. And sure enough, the plugin loads right up, and all of the categories for the genres of music load right away. Pick the category of your choice with the X button, and the music will start streaming right away to your PS3. A lot of modern entertainment systems use OLED televisions, and it's important to prevent burn-in. Fortunately, Movian's got you covered. Leave it sitting stationary for about a minute or so, and you'll be treated to some rotating, high-quality images to help protect your display. That's a great way to play your favorite movies and music on your PS3, but there's one little problem. There's no way to play games inside Movian. But check this out. Play backups of your favorite PS3, PS2, PS1, and PSP games using the power of mana guns. This video will show you how.